This is why people call the media the enemy of the people. Who is Bishop Marmari Emmanuel from the Daily Mail? A known anti-vaxxer with huge online following. What a contrast to the way that the Bondi Junction victims were covered. Great headline, Max Atchinson. I can't help but notice you removed your name from your work. So here's a free plug. So I was meant to be filming my return video today, but I have to admit, I'm still quite shocked from what happened last night with the stabbing of my friend, Bishop Marmari and 3 others. To me, Marmari was an enormous source of encouragement, especially during the pandemic years. And he really inspired me to stand up, especially during the time of my town hall speech in 2021. But seeing what was done to him really broke me, and I really do understand why thousands of people rocked up to the church last night. It's not that I was upset with the fact that he was attacked. You know, Jesus told us and he warned us that you'd be attacked. It's kind of a KPI for Christians. What broke me was hearing what the good bishop did after he was stabbed. He stood up, blood coming out of his neck. He walked over to the attacker, put his hand on his head, prayed on him, and he said to him, "My son, don't be afraid. You are forgiven." Truly, this was an amazing man, trying to walk in the steps of Jesus Christ. I'm pleased to hear that he's doing all right. With that said, Australia and the world is changing rapidly, and not for the better. What you see behind me is my attempt at helping to provide a safe space for people like you and me, so that we can have discussions and to actually bring transparency to the media cycle. It's to have dialogue before we see violence like we saw last night. There are many explanations as to why we saw so many people flood the church last night and why we saw violence towards the police, and none of them are being discussed. Remember, these are the people that the media regard and described as the great unwashed. They're the same people that escaped religious persecution in the Middle East, the same people whose religious freedom was trampled on after the 2017 vote on same-sex marriage, the same people that were targeted with lockdowns from Gladys Berejiklian's 12 LGAs of concern, while Bondi and the eastern suburbs were left open. The same people who a year ago had LGBT protesters rock up to their church and smash a crucifix in front of them in Belfield. The same people that voted against the voice to the parliament. And now they're the same people that watched an Islamist 15-year-old bloke stab their beloved Bishop Marmari Emmanuel. And the media has the gall to write a headline about this pro-Russian anti-vaxxer priest. And you wonder why the people last night weren't a fan of the police. How many grains of sand make a heap? These things don't just happen. There's a build-up, and the media is not interested in telling you about exactly the context of what happened. So yeah, I'm back from my break. What a terrible story to start with. But here I am in the studio that I promised you guys I would deliver. Here's the war room, and very soon I'll be starting the podcast called The Ark. Why did I call it The Ark? Well, after the October 7th attack, I was personally really frustrated with the fact that people were distracted a week out from our voice referendum to the parliament with events that were happening 14,000 k's away in a different country that we couldn't even help. So I decided to bring my podcast under the symbol of Noah and the story associated with it. A story that is respected by the Abrahamic religions, Muslims, Christians, and Jews. It's time that we work together on things that we do agree on. Things like LGBT indoctrination of our kids in schools. It has to be stopped. Wasn't the rainbow that these people stole the symbol of Noah and the story of how God promised he'd never flood the world again? Since when did we allow that symbol to be stolen? Or what about free speech online? The digital ID bill that got rammed through the Senate, the phasing out of cash, and the tightening of financial transfers between bank accounts with your money. It's your money and they're holding it back. We've been distracted by events that are happening overseas, and we forgot to fight for the things happening at home. So yeah, I'm back to try and bring a bit of focus back to what we should really be paying attention to here at home. 2024, hey? Yeah, it's crazy. It's an insane year. It must be an election year in the USA. And by the way, the Australian federal election, I know it feels like we just had one. There's another one coming up in the next 12 months. That voice referendum didn't work out so well for Albo, so this is going to be a pretty interesting one. So I'm looking forward to covering these things, showing you who's punching you, why are they punching you, and most importantly, how you can punch back politically. It's going to be interesting seeing what's happening in the US. I will cover the US elections, but it is also important to see what's happening here in Australia and how can we beat it. But since I've just returned, I wanted to address a very simple question. What happened to the Donald Trump Jr. tour to Australia? Why did it never happen? In short, we were cancelled. Donald Trump Jr.'s problems became our problems. Whether it was the visa debacle last year with the federal government in July, or the lawsuit in New York that Trump Jr. was dragged into for the sin of being Donald Trump's son, or even the event venues pulling out and reneging on the deals that we had agreed on. This is unfortunately what it means to be a Christian conservative in 2024. We're working on other tour dates, and Trump Jr. is eager to come out, but obviously it's an election year and it's unlikely to happen this year with how busy it is. So when we move to refund our ticket holders with that in mind, Ticketek, who hold the money for all Sydney ticket holders, no problems. Refunded everyone, no worries, beautiful, excellent. However, TicketBud in Brisbane and Melbourne, not so much. TicketBud are like the Bud Lights of ticketing agencies. We were effectively debanked. Ironic because we were bringing out Nigel Farage to talk on this tour on that very topic. Allow me to explain. TicketBud is not fully licensed in Australia and as a result need to use a third-party payment service. We entrusted our business with Stripe, who was on the approved agency's list through TicketBud. The only other option was PayPal, and we all remember how they treated George Christensen, cancelling him. So we went with Stripe thinking that they were okay, and we've used them in the past, like with the Nigel Farage tour in 2022. There were no problems. So for this tour, they hold the ticket money in a jointly owned Stripe account with us, Stripe and TicketBud. However, we were locked out of that Stripe account holding the ticketing money. We were cancelled, we were debanked. We're still working our asses off to try and reach a settlement with Stripe to actually have the account unlocked. But to date, we've had no luck and I've been forced to go public on this now. And I've got all the receipts, as you can see. This is what happens when all major payment processes are based on the west coast of the USA. I can assure you we'll never use TicketBud again. We've gone through and we've refunded tens of thousands of dollars to people that were pretty desperate out of our own money that was intended for this particular studio, but we don't have the capacity to actually pay back everything because we're a small organization. Everyone's money is still sitting in our locked Striped account, but we've been cancelled. So Joel, if you're in Brisbane and Melbourne and you've asked for a refund, how do you get your money back? The easiest way to get your refund is to call your credit card company and say that you never received the product that you ordered. They will then issue a chargeback on the card and Stripe will release that money from that locked account into your bank account. Many people have had success with this so far, and we've been communicating this via email to people that have asked for a refund, but it should never have happened. This should never have gone this far. So that's your first option. Second option is if you've experienced the challenge with that, I want you to contact us. I've set up a dedicated email just for this. It's called refunds@tpaust.com.au. That's refunds with an S at the end. Get in touch with us. We've got a specialist that can help you on that end of the email, and we'll do everything we can to refund you in the next 30 days. Again, I'm sorry, but look at what's happening. We're just being attacked left, right, and center. I apologize for the poor communication on our end. We were really hoping to resolve this behind closed doors as efficiently as possible with Stripe and with TicketBud, but this has dragged on too long. It's become a joke, and they've left me no choice but to go public. We're clearly being targeted in a way that a Taylor Swift or a Barack Obama tour would never be targeted. And we're doing the best we can to stoically push through this and to deliver an amazing tour like we have in the past. Things like the visa, for example. How is it that the Prime Minister is able to immediately grant a visa to Bollard Man, who absolutely deserves it? But when it comes to the Donald Trump Jr. visa, he's pretty much like, oh, look, there's a process. We've got to go through this and that. There's all this. It takes 2 months. This is what I'm talking about. If the terrorist attack on Bishop Marmari Emmanuel reveals anything, it's that the media doesn't have your best interests in mind. And even while you're being stabbed and your attacker is smiling at that, the media will still demonize you as an anti-vaxxer, pro-Russian cooker, and then hide their own name from the article. This is the sort of people we're dealing with. We're in the fight for our lives. Be under no illusions. So I'll be back very soon with more content and more updates on Marmari, on the tour, and a number of other things. But as always, I want to thank you for your long-standing love, support, and encouragement. And as you can see, The best is yet to come. We need it.